What is up, like fam? It is David, your spiritual awakening coach, here to help you through your spiritual awakening. After my last video, 3 things Spirit wants you to know, which you can go watch right here. The third thing that Spirit wants you to know, which is you signed up for everything that you are going through right now. I received quite a bit of pushback from that statement, so much so that I needed to make a video to address this comment. So we have to understand that the universe is far too intelligent to create by accident. And since you were the universe getting ready to incarnate at one point, this means you were coming from absolute intelligence. Do you really think that everything you're going through on your timeline is happenstance? That wouldn't make any sense, right? We incarnate for the contrast. We incarnate for the experience. We choose what we want to heal through to give us gnosis, knowledge through experience. When you have to heal through what you are not, then you get a better understanding of what you actually are, perfect, whole, and complete, source having a physical experience. So the comments that I got were typically from people that are just kind of in a repeating cycle and saying, why in the world would I ever choose this? This is nonsense. And you have to understand that question comes from the ego. The ego hates to be uncomfortable, and the ego hates to take accountability. The ego loves for everything to be smooth so that there's no threat to survival. So if the ego needs to tell itself a little story so that it can sleep easy at night, then there's no threat to survival. Oh, this is just my lot in life. That's just the way it is. I'm just, destined to always attract narcissists, or I'm always destined to just have these short-term experiences. People are always destined to abandon me. That's just my lot in life, but at least I got my cats. I don't know. Whatever the story is, that allows the ego to sleep good at night. There's no threat to survival. That's just, your lot in life. That's a very small-minded, limited, myopic way of looking at things, and you did not incarnate to miss the lesson. So if we can step back from the ego's story and look at the bigger picture story, the source story as to why you incarnated, because if you believe that you would have never chose this, then you're basically just throwing the spiritual meaning, the bigger picture behind your life under the bus, and just throwing your hands up in the air. There's no power in that. All of your power comes from accountability. So let's say that you have a repeating cycle of short-term relationships. This means that you're starting relationships from a disempowered state. In other words, you're starting relationships from not understanding your own wholeness, completeness, and perfection. Why would you be perfect, whole, and complete? Because you're a fractal of source having a physical experience. That's what you actually are. It's only your ego that makes you believe that you were anything less than perfect, whole, and complete. And your ego got that BS story from unhealed trauma. Unhealed trauma typically came from childhood. So let's say that you always attract narcissists. Well, maybe you had a narcissistic parent that you never got approval from. So you grow up and you chase after narcissists to finally get that approval from them. But narcissists never give approval. That's the rub. That's the vicious cycle. So don't fall for that. Or maybe you have abandonment trauma. Well, you got to go back into childhood and see what caused you to fear being abandoned. This is why you go after people that typically tend to abandon you. Because if you have abandonment trauma, you're going to be over clingy, over controlling. And that person is going like, that's too much. I got to go. And then you find yourself abandoned. So what that is that is not you choosing this person out of love, but that is your unhealed trauma choosing this person to validate itself, to soothe itself. I'm going to cling on to this person to validate or to soothe my abandonment trauma. And you're starting a relationship from a disempowered state. So why did you choose this? So that repeating cycle keeps coming back around and hitting you in the face until you finally put your foot down and say, I'm tired of being sick and tired. I'm going to figure out the cause of this. I'm going to stop this cycle. If you're not stopping the cycle, it means you're continuing to do the same thing. You're not going to get a different result. So you have to go back into childhood and start to practice shadow work. Shadow work is worth its weight in gold. A lot of the people that are believing that, this is just their lot in life, and why would they ever choose this? They don't have a daily meditative practice, and they're not doing shadow work. All of your answers and healing are within. You've got to have a daily practice of going within, getting still, and healing where you are out of alignment with the dominant frequency of source, which is love. Your identity is love itself. Unhealed trauma is in alignment with the opposite frequency of the dominant frequency of source, which is love, and that frequency is fear. So as soon as you start healing all of the fear frequencies, fear of being abandoned, fear of being approved, fear of being accepted, fear of not being worthy, fear of not being worthy of love, fear of not being good enough, whatever that unhealed trauma is, it's in alignment with fear, and that's the opposite of your source self. This is why you incarnated, to heal through that so that you can understand your true identity as source having a physical experience. And once you step into that love frequency, source frequency, you become spiritually sovereign. You self-approve, you self-validate. Your life is fulfilled and purposeful. You're living in love. Happiness is created from within. You're creating your own happiness. You're not chasing things to make you happy. This is a whole different way of living, and all of that power is within, and it comes from a daily meditation and shadow work practice. So I highly encourage you guys to look up shadow work, research healing childhood trauma, research how to meditate, have a daily meditation practice. Because when you externalize the reason for your problems, oh, it's that narc, or it's that abusive person, or if you're religious, it's the enemy, whatever you're externalizing, you're pointing the finger to what you just gave all of your power to. Point the finger here, and then you give your power to yourself. So when you can get alone every day and heal, work on healing, sit with those negative emotions, and negative is just a perspective. All emotions are valid. All emotions come with a medicine and a lesson, the learning of which uplevels you to the next level, more in alignment with love and less out of the fear frequency, and you become more sovereign. All right, so I hope that this has helped you guys get out of listening to the ego's excuses. Why would I have ever chosen this? The ego comes from a very limited, constricted viewpoint where anything outside of the ego's comfort zone, outside of the ego's little sandbox, is considered a threat to survival. You want to change your life, you've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, meaning you've got to be comfortable outside of your sandbox, your comfort zone, to change the repeating cycles that are coming up. You've got all the power. You just have to step up and take accountability. I hope this helps. I love you guys. Namaste.